Good evening and welcome to Hello Darkness, the new weekly podcast show, which is all about getting you through those self-isolation times. So we're going to be talking about topics that other than the coronavirus, because I think it's quite unhealthy to be in self-isolation or isolation with your family and have that as the number one topic when there are millions of topics that you can get together and talk about as a family. I think it's a really good time for, obviously not for there being a pandemic and there being, a mass destruction on the planet, and the fact that the planet is changing and it will never go back to the way it was. Not for those times, but just be thankful for being there with your family, and having that time with your family. I spoke to somebody last week and they said these are the last days. And I've always imagined that if these were the last days, there is no other people I would prefer to spend it with than my family, my close family. And so in one sense, we are looking at the dread of the coronavirus. But in another sense, you're going to get a lot of time to spend together. And we're on, day 2 now, and my children are off school indefinitely. And it's worrying. It's almost like, what do you do with a family? It's all good popping in from work and saying, how was your day? How is school? How you been? Come in and have some dinner and stuff. But what do you do when you wake up and go to sleep and you are there with each other every minute of the day? It's an interesting one because you start to learn about your family. You start to learn exactly what it takes to be a family member. Has somebody not emptied the bin today? And was it their task? And you only really start noticing these things when you are on top of each other all day. Not to mention the fact that your electricity bill, your gas bill, your food bill is going to go through the roof because you have a situation where everybody's at home all day, everybody's eating. We haven't got to the stage yet where we are seriously rationing because we still got the ability to go out and get food from the local stores. We've still got the ability to actually go out for an hour or so a day. But what happens if all of that stops? What happens if this virus gets to the stage where there is no contact at all? You are not allowed to go out or leave your house at all. How do we cope then? That's one of the things that worries me because, my family eats a lot. And so I'm finding that I'm going out on a regular basis to source food, in fact, source food that I like to eat, source food that they like to eat. What happens if now when I get that hour out, I have to go and source food that I wouldn't normally eat? Provisions that I would never have purchased had it been a normal situation. I would never have purchased those things. What happens to the family then? Is there this unseen pressure of like an underlying depression going on in the household? It'd be interesting to talk to some people who have been in isolation for longer than, say, a week, just to find out how the dynamics in the family or the dynamics in the household have played out. Do we get angry more? Do we get depressed more? Do we want to break and smash the front door down and just run out into the world and scream, I don't care? What happens after the 7th or 8th day? If you're out there, you've got children, what are you doing with your children to keep them occupied? Are you just leaving them on the game? Are you giving them, massive amounts of homework to do? What happens on day 10 or 11 when they get bored of that and they, you're sat there, they're sat there, they want to go out, they want to do something exciting, but you can't? How do you explain it to your children? So there's a lot of difficult sides to dealing with this as a family. It's, also the other side is in terms of education and homeschooling. How many of us know as much as our children anyway? So we've got a difficult task, not only having to work at home, but also having to teach your children for sometimes up to 6 hours a day. How do you do that? So this show will go out on a weekly basis and it will invite comments, phone-ins, just to find out where you're at with this whole corona, social isolation, not being able to go out a bit, and just to find out, how we're doing through this process. But remember this though, the world has been in situations like this before, not very often. I mean, this is on the same par as World War II in terms of what it will do to the economy. We all know that, and we all know the impact it will have on us as individuals and employees, investors, and just generally everybody. This thing will touch everybody. And so I guess the silver lining that I'm trying to give is, there will be a better day. We will come out of this on top, and there will be a new world. But are we ready for that new world? Is it something that just snuck up on us, and nobody ever expected this to happen quite this quickly, or the measures to be quite this drastic? So when we emerge from this, it's important to maintain that ambition. Keep your ambition, keep your goals. There is a life after this. So many of you are kind of writing it off. Am I going to be a victim? Is it going to happen to me? Are my family going to die? Am I going to end up in a hospital somewhere isolated and not being able to see anybody? These are really, really important times. So my advice is this: is when you had, the talents that you have, now is the time to make those really work. Because when you emerge from this, you are going to emerge from this a brand new person. Your children are going to emerge from this brand new people, because they've never seen anything like this in history. They've read about these or are reading about these currently in the work they do at school. So imagine how you're going to come out of this. For me, I love public speaking, so I'm going to be practicing my public speaking. I'm going to create a public speaking company while I'm in isolation. And maybe I will talk about this as part of the talks that I do in the future. So think about that for a minute. Think about what you're going to do when you come out into this new world, what type of person you're going to be, and what type of an impact you're going to make on this new world order. Speak to you soon.